Hello. This is our new show, Shougai, on 22S Radio with your host Jason Green and
Shadic Anderson.
And for our first episode, we are going to discuss disability in our experiences.
Absolutely.
So tell me. We will discuss ourselves first. So you can go. You have the honors.
Totally fine. So, my name is Shadic Anderson. I'm a veteran of the United States Marine Corps. I served a little over 8 years in the Marine Corps Infantry. I'm originally from Newark, New Jersey, so I'm an East Coast guy. Like I said, served 8.5 years in the Marine Corps. I've been all over the world, essentially, from the Middle East to the Pacific. So I definitely had my fair share of experiences. Currently at Cal State Long Beach studying journalism. I'm also the president of our Student Veterans Organization, which is an auxiliary to Student Veterans of America. I'm our chapter president, as well as our regional vice president for Student Veterans of America. So, do quite a bit, but I'm thoroughly excited.
And I'm Jason Green. I am a journalism major here at Long Beach. I'm aspiring to be an education reporter or a public information officer. Right now, I'm currently interning at 22 West magazine, so I am familiar with 22 West. So the word Shougai actually means disability in Japanese.
Oh, nice.
And that's how I came up with that in a class because I had to do an assignment.
Yeah. And
with that assignment, you have like your own brand. And so I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Got to adopt the idea of like disability. And so I don't want to say disability. Disability is kind of outdoor, but I think Shougai is very unique in that way.
Absolutely. No, please.
And so, so I made that brand. So it's called Shougai because it's about this entire show. It's going to be about disability.
Most definitely.
And so for me, I was born with cerebral palsy, and that cerebral palsy really limits my mobility. If you see me walk around campus or anywhere, you will see I limp a lot, and so people always think I'm like injured. Because when you have a physical disability, I feel like you are judged more because they can't really see
100%.
Your disability. How is that case for you?
Oh, for me, I do have physical disabilities as well as mental disabilities as well. So I do understand where you're coming from in terms of, having a disability that's visible. My knees are extremely shot. I have constant grinding in the knees from my tenure in the Marine Corps, and I get it. There's times where like my knees will just completely grind, and it sounds like I need WD-40 because there's so much popping and cracking and stuff. And as for the mental illnesses and disabilities and stuff like that, I'm dealing with debilitating insomnia, anxiety and stuff like that. It's like we have to put on a mask, to put on this facade for day-to-day life to show that we're still normal and stuff like that, even though we're still battling our demons, if you will, on the inside.
It's like living, like we live, like it's kind of interesting because everyone is different, obviously, and everyone has different struggles, but it's still, society still makes people who have disabilities adhere to a world that doesn't have disabilities, which is kind of impossible because the only world we kind of know is before disabilities. Like I cannot imagine a life without a disability because I've never experienced that in my life.
So for me, like growing up, the mentality that we had was just to keep going. So regardless of me being hurt, injured, or like I needed to take that step back, I never necessarily had that opportunity until, several years ago. when I had to take the mental break to understand that I'm literally burnt out and I'm grinding to a halt here. And if I don't seriously start taking my health into consideration, I'm not going to be here for long. So that's when I started, going to my medical provider and stuff like that. Granted, I was paying for the health insurance for nothing because I wasn't necessarily going besides like yearly checkups and stuff like that. But until I started to doing a deep dive into, my life and what it meant for me to truly be healthy, because it wasn't necessarily just about, going to the gym, being fit and being active. You got to also take care of yourself on the inside. And that's going to see a counselor if you need the counseling. Going to say, like, I need help because you don't understand, or you're not meeting the mark, if you will. You need to have that humility. Excuse me. You need to have that humility to truly take the step back and recognize that I'm not okay. And you need to figure out how you're going to, get the advice and stuff that you need.
Was there like a sense of shame for you in a sense? And that
I wouldn't necessarily say shame per se. It's more or less like a mentality, if you will, having an ego, pride, like we're constantly set, especially where I grew up, super urban area, where you had to constantly grind, you had to hustle in order to make things happen. You necessarily didn't have the time to, take that step back and be like, hey, let me focus on myself. Let me think about myself in terms of what am I missing? What am I lacking? So for me to, years later, take the opportunity to do so, was it hard? Absolutely. It was extremely difficult because, again, like, infantry guy by trade. At the time, I was a senior manager for 24 Hour Fitness, so I did a lot, and I never needed assistance in that process, various different promotions, accolades, and stuff like that, and I didn't need anybody. However, in that process in which I was doing it, I was burnt out, like the anxiety, not being able to sleep at night, the constant, thought of, am I doing this right? So it's definitely a lot that weighs on you, and if you don't get the proper help that you need, it can literally ruin your life.
I know insomnia is really prominent amongst a lot of people, even more so.
Yeah.
But I've never actually I don't know exactly insomnia. I mean, I know like you stay awake. I mean, like you can't fall asleep or stay asleep, but I don't know what it actually feels like. Can you describe that?
Absolutely. So to your point, like, it's very difficult for me to fall asleep because my mind is constantly on go mode. So I'm constantly doing something, thinking about something, doing something. It also ties into my anxiety and stuff. And then the moment I lay down, for someone normal, they do their unwind process where, they do their evening routine, shut off the TV, brush their teeth, wash their face, all that jazz. But for me, I can do all that and I'll lay in bed and my thoughts just continue to race and whatnot. So it's extremely difficult for me to fall asleep. And when I do fall asleep, I deal with night terrors, sleep sweats and stuff like that. So night sweats. So yeah, it's interesting to say the least. But to the initial point, I do seek help, and I have been seeking help for the past 3 years consecutively on my issues in which I deal with on a daily.
How did you what give you the courage to seek help? I mean, in just trying to say like, you're not okay. Because I know a lot of people. Like, for me, I can't hide that. I can't. For me, I can't avoid being disabled. Yeah. I wish I could. I can't. I can't though.
No,
but how did you get that? Get this courage to finally be like, like I have these problems and I need help.
Seeing a lot of my close friends, pass away through suicide and stuff like that. Seeing friends that I grew up with either getting incarcerated or falling victim to the streets and stuff. That was a path I didn't want to go down. And some, not all of them, but some didn't raise their hand and say like I need help. And I wanted to do that. I didn't want to be a statistic for myself and my community. As a veteran, as an African American male, I wanted to overcome a lot of the stigmas that comes along with it. I don't think of myself as an arrogant individual. I'm no better than anyone else, and once I looked at myself from that perspective, regardless of what positions or occupations that I had, I always looked at myself as no different from, someone that's unhoused or anything like that, regardless of, what I'm enduring in life. And me knowing that I did have resources, there's some people that don't have the resources that I have. And I want to make sure, I can utilize them accordingly and also spread the word and make sure that others know that you're not alone. There's a lot of stuff that we deal with and we internalize it a lot, and we wish we can get it off our chest, but it's just a lot going on. So if I'm able to continue down the path and just show people, it's okay to say I'm not okay. Seek help, and you have that support system. So yeah, that's definitely what assisted me in my process of having the courage to ask for help and say that I'm not okay.
For me, I even for more being having depression. For example, I generally I know for some reason I avoid therapists. Yeah. Even though I feel like even I keep telling myself I do need it, but I still also kind of like that. And
I'd recommend any and everyone, if you have the opportunity to speak to somebody, it is A-okay to do so. Having the humility to recognize that things aren't going okay, no matter how far you're rocking and rolling, grinding, it does monumental things, because again, we don't know how fast we're going in life. We don't know when we need to, take our foot off the gas and put our foot on the brake, because life is just flying at us a million miles an hour, and it can be debilitating. It can completely have you thinking what's going on, so for you to not even raise your hand, you can do a lot of things anonymously, reach out to your provider, seek help, and focus on the mental health, because there's also programs that you can utilize to assist. So I highly recommend it. Highly.
One theme for me that has been happening to me for the past 2 months has been comparison, which is so sad, because I feel like comparison is really unfair.
What do you mean?
Because I compare myself, because I also, on top of my cerebral palsy, I also have intellectual deficiencies. But I still struggle with them, but I'm overcoming them.
Yeah.
This show is very daunting to me, even though it would appear to be very easy to other people. It's very, very, very daunting to me. But when I look at other people, they can do that, and but then these people can do all these different tasks, all these different works, and all these different really cool things and jobs, and I look at myself I can't do that because I have a disability. So that has been kind of my theme. That's right.
Yeah. So for me, to piggyback off of what you're saying, I try to have the opposite mindset, and I know it could be rather difficult. To show that regardless of my disability, no matter how many there are and what they may be, that I can still do it too. That's something that I hold near and dear to my heart, because I believe just because you suffer from a disability doesn't make you any different from someone who's normal, quote unquote. We battle with our things, in our own fashion, shape, form. And we shouldn't be looked at any different from someone else. So I say, hop on the opportunity to show people that you're no different. Have a smile on your face. Do what you have to do to show, not only for, yourself, because that should be paramount and that should always be number one. You should be doing it for yourself, but do it to inspire others. Because there's definitely other people that may go through the same thing that you're enduring at this current time, and they need someone to look up to. So that's something else that I also I cherish, because I want to be someone that for others to emulate. Someone that I didn't have growing up. So if I'm able to, step into that role and do that and inspire as many people as possible, I know at the end of the day, my job is being fulfilled.
For me, I actually kind of want to be inspiration as well.
Yeah.
Because the thing that causes my intellectual deficiencies is from an abnormality within my brain. I mean, it's actually one of the the corpus callosum is. Have you heard of it? Yeah. So, yeah, I always ask people this, and I know no one knows what it is.
Totally.
It's a part of your brain, that connects the left hemisphere and right hemisphere of your brain. You know how it's connected to that thing called the corpus callosum.
Yeah.
So mine is partially absent.
Oh wow.
So it's really difficult for my brain to send signals to each other, and so with that, I want to be inspiration, because people with intellectual deficiencies or intellectual disabilities don't make it to this academic level, as in going to university, and even actually community college is quite difficult for a lot of people with intellectual disabilities. Because I looked at a statistic, and it said that only 3.2% of people, 3.2% of people with intellectual disabilities who are students actually make it to university. Yeah. And I feel like I'm a really, really small statistic who made it though. So I want to be able to one day, if I can make it here, literally anyone can. Yeah. I feel like one thing I feel like the thing about having a disability is that one negative thing is that I feel like if you have a disability, you kind of have an inherently low motivation. Or because depends on for example, you're really motivated. Yeah. What you have.
So for me, again, my motivation is one, my upbringing. So I growing up in a super urban area, dealing with the normal qualms of living, in that environment, drugs, violence, gangs, all that jazz. That definitely gave me inspiration that I didn't want to go down that path, So me having that drive, and in addition to everything that was going on there, I had to continue to rock and roll. I had to continue to move. So going into the military, all the trauma, all the stress, but it had the drive, it had the ambition tied along with it. So once I was able to truly delve into it, with the leadership of the Marine Corps, and understanding what it truly means to be, not only just a man, but as a human being, growing up as an adult, because I didn't have that. So I needed to figure all that stuff out. So the stresses, the stressors of that, I had to learn a lot on my own. So what motivates me is to make sure that someone else growing up, they don't have to have, or endure the same stuff that I went through. There's someone out there that's been through it before, and this is what they did in order to get out of it. Is it going to suck? Absolutely. That may be irrefutable, but, there's definitely sunlight, at the end of the tunnel. So as long as you stay motivated, as long as you stay, humble, remember where you came from, and remember that, to your point, if you made it, anyone else can. Understanding that not everyone else comes from the same, demographic, the same background, and assisting people from where they're at and building them up from there. I feel as though all those things are paramount in order to make sure that you're building a really good society.
For me, as you mentioned, as well, I really like your story of that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
For me, it's just that I kind of worry, am I going to be able to overcome these challenges? But every single time I say that, I end up doing that. But I feel like even with people, even people who don't have disabilities, still have to struggle in order to succeed. I feel like I feel like yes, having these difficulties, and not like being everyone else, and having a lot more stressors, having a lot more difficult things to go through. Yeah. You still have to do challenges. 100%. But it's just going to be slightly harder than
absolutely. Yeah. And to your point, I believe those challenges truly make us who we are today. You know, and there's no way to duck them. You know, we can't evade them forever. We have to face those challenges at some point. So in order for us to properly do it, you know, I was always raised, the only way to understand is you get yourself in the pool. You know, regardless if you know how to swim or not, you'll figure it out real quick. So, again, like, you have to take the initiative in order to get your feet wet, in order for you to truly, you know, grasp the concept of what it is that you want to do, you know, because we're always gonna have issues, you know, regardless of what they are, and it's all gonna matter how we, you know, I don't want to say combat, but achieve the outcome of those. So absolutely, it's all you know, situation pendant for sure.
Have you ever encountered anyone who questioned your disability? Because that happens to me quite often. I mean, not relatively often. Because you can go.
No. I've never had anyone question my disability or anything like that. Because I'm very transparent. I feel as though there's no need to mask who I am or like what I endure, because hey, it is what it is. I have nothing to hide. So yeah, like I don't have any issues with people asking like, hey, what do you go through? Because man, I'll tell them real fast, pull up a chair. How much time you got?
You know? Like for me, I like to walk a lot on campus. Yeah. I walk so much on campus. Yeah. I feel like if you walk at night, I think if you were to walk around at night, you would see me. Yeah. So it's happened about a couple of times, but some people would stop me while walking. Yeah. Because they were like, "Oh, are you okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm just disabled." I don't need to. I feel like I don't need to hide that. Because as I said before, I can't hide. Yeah. I'm like, what do you want me to like? I can't do that.
Yeah. And I believe that it's one thing, you know, to be unaware of what's going on, but it's a completely different to, you know, be aware of what's going on and you just want to be, you know, snide about it. So I definitely think there's two like different ways, and I'm all for like, you know, answering questions, you know, and being truthful and all that other jazz. So yeah, and it again, like it's all going to depend on the tonality of the confrontation in which I'm having. Well, not necessarily the confrontation, but the engagement in which I'm having. So I definitely believe that plays a factor for sure.
So besides like social, how besides social like problems with disability, I would say, how would you say it affects your academic life, career?
So for me, again, tying back from like growing up, like having to constantly like grind, hustle, if you will, that's something that I still hold near and dear. I have my great grandmother's name tattooed across my chest, and she's she's like my inspiration and hope for the things that she's done during her time here. So whenever I'm like experiencing anything, I look at her as like a beacon of hope that, you know, if she endured the things that she went through, then I have no excuse for why, you know, I can't. Because she suffered from terminal cancer. And she still cooked, said that twice. Cooked, cleaned, worked, did all that stuff. And, you know, I just have a little bit of baggage with me. Her baggage was terminal. So, that's the outlook that I hold, and granted, it may, at times, man, it'll get me riled up to the point where I'm just going, you know, I'm constantly doing something. You talked about academics, like, I try to focus because I want to set the example, for not only, you know, people from where I'm from, show them that they can do it, but for people in the infantry, you know, there's stigmas all about us infantry folk, you know, that we're dumb infantrymen and all that stuff, but And I was just on the president's list last semester. You know,
amazing. I didn't get that. I got the dean's list. I didn't get that. But wow, that's
So being able to shoot for the stars, I hold that dear because I have so much riding on it. And granted, it adds to the anxiety. That's irrefutable, but I feel as though it's definitely worth it seeing the smiles that I put on others' faces. Yeah. You know, understanding that my actions that I do makes an impact on not only, you know, the veteran community, but the minority community that's underserved and stuff like that. It truly warms my heart to make an impact in those fields.
I think back to that as well, kind of like motivation. Motivation as well. The reason why I'm motivated now because I can't go back. Because I made it to university now, there is no going back for me. So that's why I'm also, like, as you said, you're always thinking about, you're always doing something. That's kind of like me right now.
100%.
And I feel like we need more support for minorities in that way. From every perspective of society, every aspect of society has a lot of issues with that.
And I feel as though we need to learn to recognize those issues and shed light on them. You know, I don't want people to do what I did, you know, to be internal. Like, us military folk, you know, especially in the combat arms, we go internal. And it's a saying that we say, because we just shut off. We shut everything off, and our main focus is just getting it done. You know, get the mission done, get the objective or whatever done. That isn't the way to do things. Like, being able to have an emotion is okay. Like, it's a wonderful thing, and I don't want anyone to have to submit any of that.
How would you change the mentality of the military, but while also keeping the same standards of efficiency?
We need to understand, in my personal opinion, that troop welfare and the mission accomplishment absolutely goes hand in hand. I do understand, you know, that we want to make sure the mission's taken care of. That's priority. But I'm a firm believer. I can't complete my mission without the men and women that I serve with. So if I can't get them to wherever I need to get them, then how can I even, you know, get to the mission? So I would definitely say we need people to be open about the things that they're going through. You know, people shouldn't be ostracized, you know, for going to seek help. People shouldn't be looked at a certain way because, hey, like, I hurt myself, or like, I'm hurt, like, I can't do this. They shouldn't be looked at any way for doing said things. So I feel as though that should be a start, understanding that those two things, mission accomplishment and troop welfare, does go hand in hand. And you can't put one over the other without the proper equipment necessary to ensure that it can go correctly.
Wow. What other aspects do you think should be changed with it, or is that the biggest one you think?
I feel as though that is definitely the biggest one. Because in my experience, that was the biggest thing. Like, forcing people to do stuff that, to get done, but it'd be at risk of others.
But also, it wouldn't be as efficient.
Exactly. Like, at the end of the day, the only thing that mattered was, did the job get done? Well, the job got done, but you know, look at the discourse that came from it.
Yeah, but like, how is that going to affect other
exactly
after that?
And morale plays a factor and whatnot, because you know, you can only keep an individual, you know, for sake of argument, caged up for so long, you know, before they start wanting to do things, wanting to be active and stuff like that. So you need to it's just so much stuff. I feel as though there needs to be more efficiency there for sure, and I feel as though that's number one and number two. Ensuring that people aren't ostracized for going to seek help, and putting mission accomplishment and troop welfare hand in hand. Like, you can't put one above the other.
So we talked about, we have like this with disability more. When you spoke, because you've met people with more veterans with disability.
Absolutely.
Do they have like the similar, like, have you met anyone who kind of has kind of grown with a similar mentality as you? Or not?
I'm a very interested individual.
Yeah.
So to be honest with you, my outlook on things are different from most veterans, and I'll be honest. However, since I've gotten into working with other veterans and stuff like that, I have been meeting equal-minded veterans who absolutely want to see positive change in the world and stuff like that. Granted, not saying that others don't, but our paths are a little different, But I have met veterans that are equal-minded, that we do have the same objective. Like, the organization in which I belong to, Student Veterans of America, we're going to be going out to Washington, D.C. to lobby, for veterans, advocacy, and veterans' needs, because I feel as though that's extremely important. There's too many vets that, get the short end of the stick, and that's not fair, regardless of how. I don't care if you served a day or if you served all 30 years. You put on the uniform and you took, that initiative to give your life for this country, and the least this country should be able to do is give you a thank you. I don't agree personally with, some of the changes that's going on in the VA. I do believe the veteran, again, if you served in the military, right, you put on that uniform and you've done something that most Americans have not, I think you do deserve, benefits. You do need to be taken care of to an extent. Healthcare should be a thing, especially with all the things that go on in the military, and mental health issues run rampant, so there definitely need to be veterans taken care of, instead of us getting out and just go figure it out.
And if PTSD for a lot of veterans is very, very difficult.
Sure.
Going through, so with that, what else would you specifically change within health, you would think?
I believe that every veteran should be allotted mental health or just healthcare in general, regardless of your 0% disabled or 100% disabled. Invisible wounds are a thing. The battles, the stress, all the things that we went through in our tenure in the military, regardless, again, if you served 3 years, if you was in the Army, or if you retired out of the military, you have some, but you deserve your benefits. You served for them, you deserve them. And there shouldn't be any blockages from you achieving those things. So definitely ensure that mental health is taken care of. When you're doing your outpatient exam and stuff like that, getting out of the military, that needs to be paramount. It needs to be on the top of the docket. You need to be seen accordingly, so people understand, this is a serious deal, and we need to make sure it's taken care of accordingly.
On a national level, about policy, about did you hear about the Section 504? Have you heard of that?
No, I haven't.
So Section 504 is anti-discrimination, and also it really helps disabled people, function.
Yeah.
But that's also being kind of debated right now too. So when you talk about policy, I'm also worried on on a national level as well.
And it's unfortunate because the direction in which I feel as though it's going is in an adverse direction. Instead of us getting more help, we're getting less help, and that's gonna, in my personal opinion, is gonna lead to more, mental health, crises and stuff like that, because we don't have the resources necessary to, combat these illnesses and stuff. There was 1,000 VA workers that was cut in Atlanta, from their VA healthcare system. That's huge, so there's countless of veterans that's being affected by that. So I feel for anyone who's getting caught up in this, not only from our community, as disabled Americans, but, the veterans community, the underserved community and stuff like that. So it definitely hits home because, again, it just doesn't affect us. It's affecting multiple different people. Yeah. So I definitely take it personal.
Yeah. So with what would you describe an experience for if you want that hit you the most with your disabilities? Would you have like a specific moment that you remember like this is kind of like and like this is like a horrible? Have you ever?
So every year, like, and it's usually for my birthday. Every year you get a little older. I don't want to say allow, but I truly embrace all my emotions. I give myself an opportunity to feel everything. And it is a whirlwind of emotions from, like sadness, depression, laughter, all that. Because, man, my life has been interesting to say the least. So I feel as though, giving yourself the opportunity to feel is heaven sent. It's okay to cry. As a guy, it's okay to do those things because, in my personal opinion, it makes you feel human. It makes you feel alive. Not driving, but being on go 24/7 that's daunting. Yeah. That's daunting. And man, it is so stressful. So being able to truly like embrace it all and let your body feel it, it does wonders,
For me, all my extreme difficulties actually come from when I was younger. Yeah. Because I actually had multiple heart surgeries and other surgeries when I was younger. So all that physical pain happened in my childhood rather than my adulthood. Yeah. Thankfully, I remember myself vaguely too. Like I remember one really really difficult challenge that happened was when I had to have like a surgery when I was younger on my foot, on my Achilles heel, because I was walking on my toes, my right leg, and so I had to have the surgery, and then I had to learn how to walk again in a sense, because for me I was quite aggressive child. When I remember because in one of my surgeries it took a really long time for them to finish because I pulled out like one of the devices, and so it took like an extra hour. I was a child, but for this one it was quite frustrating to learning how to do something. I feel like it's more frustrating 100%. Than having to learn something. And so I remember, I don't know why, but one of the most prominent moments I think when I was younger was me trying to learn how to kind of walk again. In a sense.
For me, like I remember, like it was literally yesterday, so it's still like relatively new. And it was December 4th, 2005, around 4:30. And shoveling snow all day, doing all that jazz, and then my great grandmother, the one that I have her name tattooed across my chest, comes in the apartment and she's like, "Hey, we're going, we gotta go." And I'm like, "What? What's going on?" And she's like, "We need to go." We ended up going to where we used to live, because that's where literally all our family, we were still connected to the neighborhood and stuff like that. And soon as we pulled up, it was my cousin's like lifeless body, like on the ground. He's murdered. So, man, that was tough. And that's stuff that I to this day, like I still live with. Seeing that at like 12. 11, whatnot, like that.
Were you close to that one?
Like our family was extremely tight knit, and we're still somewhat tight knit. But for something like that, we literally was just with him. He was at the house, that morning, because we all stayed together, So for something like that to happen when we just was having conversations a couple hours ago, Like, that's huge, you know.
Was that also on top of it? Does that also add to your motivation after that as well?
Absolutely. For all the people that I grew up with and I lost and whatnot, I try to live for them. You know, all the things that they couldn't do, they can't do anymore. You know, I try to do those things because they're still here, you know, in some sense, form, or fashion. And they give me the motivation, they give me the inspiration to get up and do the things that I do. So I'm completely, like, thankful for them for being that inspiration for me.
I'm so sorry about that too.
It happens, man. It's life.
Yeah, but you and I are so opposite. Because I see so much optimism within you.
Yeah. And
for me, I'm still kind of struggling with me being very pessimistic about my outlook on life, but I shouldn't be, because I feel like we're both accomplished in our own way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so
and that's what, for me, we're finding like-minded individuals where we can galvanize. We come together and we work together as a team. Like, regardless of who we are, our backgrounds, and X, Y, and Z, we come together as a team to promote a better world. You know, for us. You know, not just us, but the next generation. That's what it truly means. You know, taking care of tomorrow's generation, making sure they don't have to endure the same things that we endure, you know, because we live through a lot, you know, and we shouldn't want history to completely and constantly repeat itself. We want to, you know, break, you know, the mold and forge your own path, you know, without, you know, dealing with the hate, without being, you know, ostracized for the decisions in which you make. You know, unless they're like extremely heinous and egregious, but you shouldn't feel any type of way just to live your life, and that's what I want to see in this world.
Yeah, I feel like I feel like disability can be a strength too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I will say that too. I am writing an article about disability.
Yeah.
And I feel like have you heard of the Section 504 protest that happened?
I want to say I have. Was it?
It is. We also Shadic and I had like 2 classes together.
Yeah.
It's like a protest that happened of a lot of people who had disabilities, and they had this. It was called the Rehabilitation Act,
Very nice.
1973. 73, but it wasn't. It was like under Section 504 that allowed, you know, anti-discrimination for disabled people. But it wasn't passed until 77. Because a lot of protesters went to a federal building for almost a month. Yeah. So I feel like in numbers is strength, and a disability is also strength too. Because I look at that protest and like, these people, I can be like them too.
That's what it's about. You know,
it's like inspiration. So I feel like inspiration really passes down.
100%.
I feel like you're just gonna you're gonna be like one of those people who inspire an entire generation. I don't know.
And I'm flattered. And that's true. I would love to, and whatever I can do to ensure that tomorrow's generation's taken care of. I'm going to do my part. I'm going to do my due diligence to, you know, assist in that process. You know, I don't believe in being an adverse individual or try to spread negativity and stuff like that. I want to make sure we're actually coming with solid solutions to problems instead of kicking the can down the road. Because at the end of the day, someone's going to have to deal with that problem, you know, and I want to make sure that it is rectified. You know, we're still dealing with stuff and promises, you know, from almost a century ago, you know, from FDR and stuff like that. So, yeah, the people deserve to be taken care of, you know, and it's our job to bring that dream to, you know, to light, you know.
So we are going to wrap up now. Do you have any final thoughts for our fourth episode? There's a lot here.
100%.
But yeah, so.
Yeah,
any last thoughts to wrap up or?
I'm thoroughly glad to be here, and whatever insight that I can provide, I would love to assist. So if you can catch me, I have LinkedIn. You can catch me on LinkedIn, Shadic Anderson. On Instagram, it's Andersonian the Great. And yeah, man, I'm out here spreading a positive message.
And you can follow us at on Instagram as well at Shougai.podcast.